We are working too fast? Okay, we will slow down for you. I recently found this subreddit, and I think I have a great story for it. This happened about 2 years ago. I work in construction, but more specifically, I cut concrete. A lot of people are not familiar with my job, but all you really need to know is that I do not pour any concrete. I use large diesel and hydraulic-powered saws to cut and remove it. I work at a relatively small company with 15 employees, and we are the company to use for concrete cutting and removal in our area. I was the first employee hired at this company, and my bosses are amazing. They have been in the industry for 25 and 30 years, respectively. We will call them Brad and Cody. They know what they're doing, and they still get out and work in the field and will outwork any of our employees. We were awarded a no-bid contract at a very large facility to cut and remove a very large section of their outdoor slab because it had cracked. This was routine for us. We could do it in our sleep, but it was still a large project. The reason we were given the contract without being held to a specific number was because they wanted it done right and fast, and they knew that we were the people to do this, even though we are not always the cheapest. The customer requested us to bring extra equipment and specialized saws just in case. This becomes important later. The day came when we were supposed to start, and they wanted us on site at 6:30 in the morning for a safety meeting. Brad and Cody went out while I stayed back to get my crews ready for the day before heading out to meet them. When I arrived at 8 in the morning, they were still standing by their trucks, just talking. I asked them how the safety meeting went, and they said that no one had shown up yet. Finally, they arrived around 9 in the morning and did not even acknowledge that they were late. We met the person in charge of the project. His name was John. John said during the safety meeting that there would always be a few people from his company around to watch us while we worked. We thought it was strange, but no big deal. We ran a routine safety meeting afterward, and it was time to work. We got about a third of the project completed in one day. The entire time we were working, there were no fewer than 25 people standing around watching us work. We kept joking with them to just set up bleachers. It would be easier to watch that way. They made us stop work at 4 in the afternoon so they could go home. Around this time, we started to figure out that something was off with these people. They did not care that we did not start until late and wanted us to end early, yet a big part of us being there was to get it done fast. Either way, we figured we would still be able to finish in about 3 days and make record time for a project of this size, all while making a fair amount of money for ourselves. The next morning, as we were getting ready to head out for the day, Brad received an email. It said, "While we can tell that your company are master operators with their machines, we feel as if they are operating in an unsafe manner by running multiple machines at once and request that they slow down to maintain safe working conditions. They also did not try to make sure our supervisors felt that they were safe throughout the day." Brad was angry. We were called in to get things done fast, and not once had we done a single thing that could be considered unsafe. When we got to the job that day for the safety meeting, Brad had changed from "forget these people, they do not know anything about what we are doing" to "okay, we are too fast, we will slow it right down for them." At the safety meeting, John, the same person who sent us the email, looked at us and said, "Okay, everyone knows what we are doing, let us get it done." He tried to end the safety meeting with that, but that is when my boss spoke up. He said, "Hold on. Since no one is brave enough to tell us in person and just wants to hide behind their emails, let us get this straight. We are too fast and unsafe for you?" John became visibly uncomfortable and stammered out, "Well, there were a lot of people standing around and watching you yesterday, and I just felt that someone would get hurt if they decided to get closer to watch." I had set up safety cones with red danger tape strung between them and told no one to cross. We had taken proper safety precautions. If they did not feel comfortable having that many people watch, then do not have that many people standing, watching, and doing nothing. All Brad said was, "Okay, we will be very slow, and if someone crosses our line, we shut the site down for an hour for another safety meeting." Time for the malicious compliance. We started up for the day. Something to note about our saws, tractors, and other heavy equipment is that we have the ability to adjust the idle, or in other words, we can increase or decrease the speed of the motors. So instead of everything moving normally and as it should, which is fast, everything was moving at a very slow pace. Brad told us all that if we ever sped up our machines, he would remove us from the job, even Cody, his business partner. I was cutting with our saw while Cody was in the excavator to remove the pieces that I cut. Brad was in the skid steer to haul the pieces to the dump truck. I would cut the concrete into a 6-foot by 6-foot piece, which would normally take me about 20 to 30 minutes. It was taking upwards of 3 hours for one piece. After I would cut, Cody in the excavator would turn his machine on, slowly turn and stop, extend his bucket, stop, lower the bucket, stop, tilt the bucket, stop, pick up the piece, stop, turn, stop, drop the piece, stop, shut off his machine. All without increasing the idle. Then Brad would start his machine and repeat the same process to load into the dump truck. You get the point. It was painfully slow. After the first piece was ready to be pulled out and Cody started the process, John, who was just sitting on the sideline, pale-faced, crossed my line to ask if we were really serious. At that point, Brad shouted, "Shut down!" and we all stepped away for an hour for a safety meeting. John crossed the line 3 times in the first day and 8 times total throughout the project. His employees never once crossed the danger line. Effectively, John was the only one he should have been worried about in his email about getting too close and being in danger. John kept saying, "No way, you were being serious. What happened to what you were doing yesterday? You were so much more efficient." Brad just said, "I have in writing that you felt unsafe, so for the remainder of this project, we will be operating at a safe pace." It ended up taking us 3 weeks to finish at that horribly slow pace, instead of 3 or 4 days at full speed. The best part? The head of the facility came out to see what was taking us so long. We showed him the email, and he agreed with what we were doing. He told us he dislikes John and that he is insufferable to work with. He said that the success of this project is directly tied to John's yearly bonus. He asked how much we were charging them, and we told him that per piece of equipment, truck, and saw on the site, we were billing them by the hour, and that John had requested that we have nearly double the amount of equipment than we actually needed or used. The facility had just laughed and said, "Fantastic! I will make sure you are paid in full. Do not go easy on us with the bill." That is how we maliciously complied our way into charging about $200,000 for a job that should have realistically only been worth about $45,000. I even received a substantial $20,000 bonus because Brad and Cody are fantastic bosses and knew we made a significant profit on that job. Update. I felt like I wanted to clarify a couple of things after reading the comments. First, yes, John tried to get us to go back to our previous working rate, but he would only ever ask verbally. My boss kept telling him, "I need that in writing and you have a deal. It might even save you some money while you are at it." But John either never understood what he was implying or really did not want to send an email retracting his statement, believing he would look foolish for making a mistake. Second, this was a big project, bigger than my part in it. That being said, with how John was with us, I would seriously doubt every other aspect of the job went smoothly for him. I bet they ended up with some profit, but not nearly as much as they would have without John, meaning he still probably received a bonus, just a very small one. Third, how did they have so many people able to stand around and watch for 3 weeks and not work? Well, by the end of the 3rd week, there were probably only 10 people watching us by then, but this was a facility that has hundreds of people working there, so for 25 people at a time to sneak out for most of a day to watch us was not too big a deal for them. They usually rotated, and if we saw someone one day, we typically did not see them again for about a week. Also, just another small satisfying part of the story I should have included was that Cody has had a saying since the very first time I worked with him. He says, "We are not trying to retire off of this one single job. We are treating the customer fairly, but fair is not always cheap." After the facility head gave us the go-ahead to charge what was needed and not take it easy, Cody looked at us and said, "Yes, we are retiring off of this one." Obviously, it was more of a joke, but the satisfaction I got from hearing him say that, after knowing him for 10 years, as the person who is extra fair, will never be rivaled. As for me, this story is very interesting and evokes a lot of emotions that are just waiting to burst out. If so, don't hold back and write what you think in the comments, and we'll move on to the next story. Pro Revenge. She took me to court for money and lost everything. This is my first time posting here, and I had a hard time deciding which subreddit to share this story on. Please let me know if this story is more appropriate for another subreddit. English is not my native language, but here is my story. Backstory. I have a 5-year-old daughter with my ex-wife. We broke up about 2.5 years ago. During our marriage, we had some ups and downs. We never argued or fought outright, but we did negotiate a lot with strong emotions and opinions. Yet we always managed to find some common ground to stand on together. That is why it caught me by surprise when she told me she wanted a divorce. I cried for a couple of days, went fishing, and then started planning how to figure things out. Because neither of us had enough income at that point to keep our car or house, we agreed that I would take care of selling the car and she would get a realtor to start selling our home. Well, it turned out I had to do both. Anyway, we had more debt than money, and she tried to leave all the debt to me while she would start from a clean slate. I would not let her, and I made sure everything we owned and every bit of debt was split evenly. We agreed that our daughter would live with both of us, splitting the time evenly, as our daughter had the right to have two parents. We promised each other to act civilly. This did not last long. We also agreed that since our salaries were fairly even, neither of us would pay child support. We also agreed that she would take care of buying most of the clothes and other items for our child, since she would receive the child benefit, about €100 per month here in Finland, paid by the government to support raising children. After the breakup, she started mail-ordering new furniture for herself, even before she had found a new apartment. It was obvious she did not have the money for it either. 2 weeks later, she moved out. A week later, I heard from our daughter that she had a new man. I did not really care, just raised my eyebrows. She would often call in sick to her work, usually for baseless reasons, and when her boss gave some feedback, she did not fix her attitude, but instead quit. She applied to a school and got in. After about 2 months, she quit the school too and started demanding that I pay child support. We got a professional to weigh in, and we agreed that I still would not pay a dime to her because she herself had caused her income to collapse. As a goodwill gesture, I offered to pay for our daughter's insurance. I thought the matter was settled, but then she got pregnant by her new man a few months after our breakup. After our divorce was final, there is a 6-month reconsideration period before the judge finalizes it. She married her new man. These events empowered her to demand money from me again and again. So now that you know what kind of person we're dealing with. The case. Last fall, she once again demanded money to support our child. She was working again, and I knew she used our child as an excuse because she had expressed envy toward my ability to manage my finances to a point that, even with the same amount of money, I could eat in restaurants and such. I told her that if she needed child support for legitimate reasons, I would of course help, but all the expenses would have to be calculated properly to determine the right amount she would need. Instead, she demanded I pay her €200 per month and she would take care of all the expenses regarding our daughter. She did not have any real reasons for the demand other than her need for control. She had always been someone who wanted to have the final say in things. On top of her demand, this time she threatened to sue me if I did not pay her. I laughed it off until I got a message from her lawyer. At that point, I messaged my ex telling her that from now on, I would only discuss this matter through our lawyers, and I started looking for a lawyer myself. During the next couple of months, things started to look really bad for her case. After getting the papers from the court, I noticed her case was based on false data. She and her lawyer had not asked for my income and expenses before they sued me, and she had estimated my income to be much higher than it actually was. Also, my expenses were estimated to be lower than they actually were. At this point, I messaged my ex and asked if she was sure she did not want to settle. She did not, so I decided to go with some malicious compliance and did not try again. After we both calculated every income and expense of both parties with the help of our lawyers, I and my lawyer confirmed that she had enough money to raise our child. Not only that, it turned out she actually had more money than I did for it. Monthly income minus living costs, medicine, and so forth. I burst out laughing at the absurdity of her case, even more so when she tried to twist things in her favor by sending false evidence to us and the judge, which we noticed instantly. A couple of days later, my lawyer called me. She had gotten a call from my ex's lawyer saying he had noticed my ex was lying and the entire case was based on lies, and the lawyer wanted to settle. It looked like my malicious compliance would not go through until my lawyer got a message that for some reason they would not settle after all. Game on. The judgment. We went to court. The judge was annoyed but composed. He asked my ex's lawyer about their demands. The lawyer started by saying, "First, I am going to tell a bit of the backstory. and the judge cut him off, telling him to just state the demands. After a few seconds of silence, the lawyer told the judge, "No demands." The judge was both dumbfounded and livid, asking, "Then why are we here?" To which my lawyer said something along the lines of, "That is what we are asking too." Then the judge asked my ex's lawyer, "To be clear, did you not want to settle?" And the lawyer sheepishly told the judge that my ex would not agree to settle. They were so embarrassed, it was glorious, like some kind of divine karma being served right at my ex who acted like a Karen. The judge ordered us to go to a meeting room for 20 minutes and to come back with a settlement agreement. Because she had more money, we negotiated that she would pay for our child's hobbies, insurance, and other expenses to compensate for the difference. The judge verified it, and my party left the courtroom very happy. My ex, on the other hand, was balancing between being angry and embarrassed.
The fallout. A couple of weeks ago, my ex demanded that we make changes to the schedule for how our child would swap homes. I declined, saying we have an agreement. She threatened to sue me, to which I just reminded her about the last time she tried to get what she wanted by suing me, asking if she really wanted to do it again. She got mad, and I just ignored it. About a week ago, she sent me a message saying that she had a fight with her husband, the police were called because she attacked him, and she wanted a divorce. The police had to inform Child Protective Services since there were children present, mine included. Basically, her whole life has gone down the drain. 2 children with different fathers, 2 divorces before she has even turned 30, a lot of debt and expenses, and it looks like our child will be spending the majority of her time at my place, which is what our child has wanted for the past 2 years or so. Top comments. Comment. Sounds like your divorce was a good thing for you. Maybe consider whether your child would be better off living with you and visiting the mother occasionally. Author. Yes, I have never been happier. I also have a new partner, not married yet, and my child loves her new stepmother. Also, I'm seriously considering pursuing having our child stay with me most of the time, depending on the outcome of the Child Protective Services report. Comment. Yet another post from a non-English speaker preemptively apologizing for their English, then proceeding to post in English better than most Americans. Kudos to you, sir. I wish I were as proficient in a second language as you. And continued good luck with raising your child. It sounds like you are in good shape. Comment. Be careful, original poster. Your ex is going to want to reconcile just to avoid paying child support or becoming homeless. Of course, you're going to say no, but she is not in a good place. You might want to install some cameras as a precaution, just in case. Author. Thanks. I have a few cameras recording outside our home 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, so all is good on that front. If you like the story, subscribe to the Sneaky Pigeon channel to get more cool and interesting stories. And if you want to support us even more, like the video, write a comment, and turn on the bell to receive notifications about the latest videos. See you in the next videos. Bye-bye.